American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The Treasury Department is cracking down on millions of dollars going to dead people. Connor Hansen reports.
Treasury says it's already flagged 5,000 payments that add up to nearly $100 million. And yes, that's all money that could have been going to dead people, or potentially worse, people using their names. Now, the Treasury Department says it does have a new system in place across the government to stop these kinds of payments before the money leaves government coffers. They have screened hundreds of millions of payments and trillions of dollars. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on Mornings with Maria said they're hoping to track down hundreds millions more in fraud by the end of the year.
Arizona is holding its primary elections today, and the Democratic Socialists of America are hoping to notch more wins after several progressive challengers successfully ousted establishment-backed Democrats in other states. Michigan Republican Representative Lisa McClain accuses Democrats of trying to hide the fact that they're communists.
They soften the language. They invent nicer labels. They call themselves Democratic Socialists.
New Orleans is now under a tropical storm warning and a storm surge watch in expectation of wind, rain, and storm surge from Tropical Storm Bertha.
Residents in New Orleans are getting ready to endure flooding to be caused by the approaching Tropical Storm Bertha.
The water is ridiculous. You know, that's pretty much the whole city, really.
As they build sandbag barriers to hold back the usual rising waters caused when cyclones hit the city, notoriously below sea level, New Orleans will once again rely on its pumping stations. Randy Heyman directs the city's Water and Sewer Board.
We are prepared, and I take every major rainstorm and every small rainstorm as a test.
New Orleans and Lake Pontchartrain could see a storm surge as high as 3 feet. In Miami, Eben Brown, Fox News.
The U.S. and Iran continue trading attacks following the killing of several American service members deployed to Jordan. Aisha Hosni has more from the White House.
The president is weighing whether or not he's going to expand this conflict, but the Iranians already are saying that they have totally waged a full-scale war with the U.S. In fact, this morning, there were strikes into Bahrain. Sirens were going off inside of that country as Iran began firing at U.S. targets there. Iran also launching missiles and drones at Jordan and Kuwait's power and water plants overnight. There's also a maritime report out this morning that a tanker in the Strait of Hormuz was hit by an unknown projectile off the coast of Oman. A crew had to abandon the vessel, getting into a lifeboat for safety.
And finally, the Department of Education recently took a stand on social media against 2 far-left podcasters who called homeschooling a, quote, fundamental crazy Christian problem.
When the 2 hosts of the I've Had It podcast went on a rant about homeschooling in this country, the official Department of Education account on X quickly responded, coming to defend homeschooling. The account responded by saying, quote, homeschoolers like the winner of the Presidential 1776 Award have demonstrated their ability to succeed at the highest level time and time again. The proven value of homeschooling should never be dismissed as trickle-down stupidity. The only thing that is stupid is your ignorance. Will Estrada is the senior counsel at the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. He says that it is hard to overstate how huge the Department of Education coming to defend homeschooling really is.
They've weighed in defending homeschooling, advocating for homeschooling. It's very welcome, and it's not something we've seen before.
Estrada, a homeschool graduate himself, says that the podcast comments come from a worldview of, quote, seeing children as a burden and not a blessing. He cited a study by Dr. Lindsay Burke called Bringing Education Home. The study found that homeschoolers perform on par or in some cases better academically than their public school counterparts. He also debunked the theory that the podcasters attempted to make, saying that only the far-right, Christians, and MAGA supporters are homeschooling their kids.
4.5 million kids are being educated by their parents at home, and it really cuts across every race, demographic, socioeconomic status as parents choose what's best for their children's education.
I'm Caleb Castile.
More news online at afn.net. I'm Rusty Pugh.
As we watch world events unfold and fulfill Scripture, it's hard to believe anyone could doubt God and His Word are real, and yet there are so many who either question or completely refuse to believe it. The God Who Speaks is a 90-minute documentary that hits the doubt head-on with evidence that proves God is real and His Word is the ultimate authority. Watch it anytime and invite others to watch with you. Just visit stream.afa.net. That's stream.afa.net. we inform.
Religious freedom is about people of faith being able to live out their faith, live out their convictions, no matter where they are.
We equip.
Sacred honor is the courage to speak truth, to live out your free speech.
We also rejoice in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope.
This is At the Core on American Family Radio.
Welcome to At the Core with Walker Wildmon and Rick Green, and today it is actually Walker Wildmon and Rick Green. We're thrilled to co-host once in a while. Most of the time, Walker's got you Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I've got you on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but today you get both of us. Walker, we don't get to do this enough. I know we're both running 100 miles an hour a million different directions, so we just have to do what we can. And splitting up the program was a good plan 5 years ago. Can you believe it's been that long?
I know, man. And I joke. I told a gentleman yesterday on the program, I said, I thought I traveled a lot till I met Rick Green. So, yeah.
Well, it's worked great, though, man.
It has.
I love doing the show, and I couldn't do 5 days. No way with the schedule. And I hope it's worked. That you've enjoyed it as much as I have. So I love splitting it, but I also love getting together when we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot to talk about. And we got a midterm coming up here in just a couple months. And primary season is towards the latter end. I think there's some primaries in August, but then we get November is the general. And it'll be here before we know it. And this is the middle of the second Trump term. So this will set the stage on what the last 2 years of his term will look like from a legislative and a Senate standpoint.
Yeah, so much at stake, and of course, as our audience knows, because we talk about it a lot, but traditionally in a midterm, the president's party loses seats, and can't afford to lose 2 seats, I guess, and the majority would change. I mean, it would not take much.
Yeah.
So there's a lot at stake here, and tradition or history is against us, I guess, in terms of what normally happens. But man, there's so many factors at play. I mean, clearly the Iran thing. Definitely got to talk about that and its impact, but then also just the crazies on the Democrat side. I mean, they seem to have lost any sense of reading the room. The things they're calling for, I guess they're hardcore leftist communist base likes, but I can't imagine the average American's going for this stuff.
Yeah, and it's you and I were talking about this coming into the show, and some of these things that they're saying, we know that the Democrats, some of them have thought these things before.
Yeah,
but they wouldn't
don't say it out loud.
Yeah,
right?
They didn't want to say it out loud because they knew they wouldn't get elected. But
Yeah.
now they're just saying it out loud, and I was talking yesterday and then last week on the program about how the Obamas of the Democrat Party, they're just MIA. Nobody knows where they are, what they're doing. And so now you have the AOCs, and now these Democrat socialists are making AOC look moderate. So it's
I
just
hadn't even thought
bizarre.
about that, man. You're right.
It's bizarre, and we're
She
all
looks like the normal one.
yeah. And if we had to pick between these Democrat socialists and Obama, we would all be cheering for Obama, right?
Yeah.
He would be the quote moderate in the room, even though he was a Marxist himself. So yeah, this is a bizarre timing here because we're going into the midterms, and these socialist policies are very unpopular. I know they're popular amongst some young people, but broadly speaking, socialism and communism are very unpopular amongst the general public. So why they would want to, platform these folks heading into November is quite bizarre to me, but maybe this is like a armed rebellion of the Democrat Party, armed revolution.
Well, I'm stuck on the AOC's the normal one thing that you said, because then it's like you said. I mean, Obama would be a gift compared to what these people are. And then how about a Clinton? I mean, I'd take Clinton any day over this. I'd really love to go back and get a John Kennedy, right?
Yeah.
John F. Kennedy would be a blessing for the Democrat Party right now. And I just wonder, do you think enough people even know? Like I was talking with some friends last night about just the brand, the Democrat brand. Like if people really saw the insanity, this is a Plattner guy up in Maine, this now guy dressed as a girl in their debate on their debate stage the other night, the Tallarico in Texas. I mean, you just go down the list of these people and their positions.
Non-binary Tallarico?
Yeah, Talafrico.
He tried to say God was non-binary.
Oh, unreal.
Yeah, that clip made the
He's
rounds.
got so many statements like that. But, people have to know about it, right? For it to actually hurt the Democrat Party. And it could be that Well, let me start here. I mean, Walker, I know you get frustrated with this as well, but when people say there's no difference between the parties, like they're a uniparty thing and they're all the same, and I'm thinking, do you not see the difference in what we've gotten out of this White House over the last year and a half in terms of the rededication to God, the policies, what the DOJ's been doing? I mean, there's so many things we could go to, but the left, I think, is going to help us here in showing people there really is a difference between these two parties. Just look at what happened under the Biden administration. Just look at the border. Just look at there's so many things we could point to, but maybe this radicalized Democrat Party helps to, people to see that distinction.
Yeah, you would think so. I know we have a large gap in those that are knowledgeable on the Constitution, knowledgeable in our founding history, and those who are not. We've cited the Barna studies ad nauseum, but still, even with the culture and the education being in a poor state, the track record of communism and socialism, which are two distinctly different kind of ideologies, but they play on each other a little bit. The track record of both of those is just disastrous from an objective standpoint, from a historical standpoint, and so they have no leg to stand on. And when even questioned about this, I don't know, it was one of the lawmakers, it was one of the female U.S. senators, Democrats, she was questioned about, give us an example. This is on CNBC, I think. Give us an example of where socialism, I don't know whether it was socialism or communism, but basically tell us where this has worked. This, government-driven everything of the economy.
Show us your company brochure where you're bragging about your success, right?
And she was shocked. She didn't know what to say, and she jokingly said, like, "Is this a question for next time?" And she didn't want to answer it because there is no case study, there is no example of this working. But not only, Rick, has socialism and communism both not worked, but it leads to massive human suffering. So it isn't as if like capitalism has failed and socialism has failed and communism has failed, so let's just try something different because we've tried capitalism. That's fundamentally untrue. Capitalism has led to an enormous amount of human flourishing. But socialism and communism, Rick, as you know, has led to mass amounts of human rights abuses, death, destruction, and human suffering that none of us should want to go back to.
You've seen it at Patriot Academy at all of our leadership congresses. Once anybody says the word socialism out loud, the entire student body yells out, "Is bad, very, very bad." I mean, it's like, it's like you said, it's like a fun game they play as a reminder because their generation is being sold this bill of goods that, like you said, is based on absolute lies. Because when you actually look at their record, it is abysmal. And of course, communism killed 100 million people last century. It's socialism is what leads to it, and it's just communism being voted in. Essentially, economically it ends up being the same thing. And I mean, you said something really important though that I think we also have to tell people is the incredible story of capitalism. When you do it God's way, when you look at the biblical economics of capitalism and the free market and giving people the freedom to make their choices and employers and employees the freedom to work out their arrangement and all those things that Jesus did parables on and that hard work is rewarded and everything that our economy was built upon, it creates this incentive to where people are willing to risk, they're willing to work hard, they get satisfaction from that and fulfillment, but it also makes people bless each other, right? I don't bless you with my dollars if you don't bless me with a good or service, and vice versa. And so it has created, I just don't want to gloss over what you said, it has created so much human flourishing and just household conveniences, let alone the lack of starvation and how many people have been saved and the cleanliness and the less disease and the medical care. I mean, you just go down the list. All of that does not happen under communism, doesn't happen under socialism. It happens in capitalism.
Yeah, it does, and that's what Rick. Being in America, I think we get desensitized to what we have here because it's all we know. Especially if you've never traveled out of the country, but this experiment that we're rather still undertaking is unlike anything else in human history, in the sense that biblical precepts were used to build the nation, build the institutions, build the government, etc., write the Bill of Rights. All of it is based on God's principles for humanity.
That's right.
And what's most likely to succeed according to what God's word says. And so that's what our founders did. And but this quality, look, and I said this yesterday, young people, and this is why, unfortunately, the socialists are have an ear with, quote, young people, and I'm talking probably your under 30s, is because the economy is somewhat challenging today,
right,
relatively speaking to the past.
Right.
Now, it's not Great Depression challenging, but compared to some of the peak, the peak economic prosperity times in American history, it is somewhat challenging. We could talk inflation, we could talk debt, et cetera, student loans, all of that. But still, even with all of those truths on the table, this is still the best game in town on the world stage, the capitalist economy that we have. And much of the problems that we have are self-inflicted. Now, the inflation is government-inflicted. But borrowing $300,000 in student loan debt, well, whose fault is that? It's not the government's fault. Yeah, the universities are charging too much, but who signed up for that?
That's right.
So it's just, we have to be careful, Rick, as we talk to young people that do have some things to grieve about,
yes,
that we don't create this pity party of everybody else is the problem, because I think that leads to socialism.
Yeah, man. No, you're exactly right. You've got your finger on the pulse, and if you look at what's happening with these young people, where they're being crowded out of the market. 30 million illegal immigrants coming in takes up a lot of jobs, a lot of housing, a lot of everything. It drives the price of everything up, and so those government decisions on that side put the pressure into the marketplace, and then so many of these kids are being lied to. You get the college degree, and your life's going to be easy, and so, like you said, you end up $300,000 in debt, and then there's no job or not a good job. So it's been a little bit of a scam on them, and it is self-inflicted, both from the individuals and from government. And so even the problems we're facing, had we followed free market principles and biblical principles, we wouldn't be facing Noah Webster's quote about all the miseries and evils which men suffer from vice, crime, ambition, slavery, war. I mean, all the bad stuff that you don't want, he said you get because you neglect the precepts contained in the Bible. So man, you nailed it. I mean, they are facing real challenges. It is tough. And what an opportunity we have to teach the biblical principles and get us back to the inputs that will give us the good outputs. But we have to teach these young people that as well, so that they know what causes a good job market versus a bad job market, what's going to put them in a good financial position, good biblical principles for their own finances, right? So the good news is that the good news is there, right?
Yeah.
That we have the answers.
And that's why what you're doing, Rick, at Patriot Academy, and I'm an alumni, huge fan of it, that's why what you're doing is so vital, is because you're training young people, and now at this point you're training people of all ages, but the training youth is primarily where you got your start.
Right.
But training people and young people to be problem solvers. I mean, that's the essence of Patriot Academy, how to be leaders, how to think critically about the issues of the day, how to have a solid foundation in the Scripture and in the Constitution, so we can solve our problems. Look, America's got issues. We've got serious moral issues, economic issues, et cetera. That's been the case since our inception. But we've got to have people that are problem solvers and fixers instead of just complainers. And so that's why things like Patriot Academy are so important.
Yeah, man, it is. And it's why I'm optimistic, too, because I get to see the optimism. I get to see these kids that are facing these challenges, but then when they see the answers and they see the biblical principles and they see how God designed us, the laws of nature and nature's God, and they can plug into that. When we line up with those things and the way God designed us, we get the blessings. When we go against them, we get the curses. But once they see that, man, they dig in. They're excited to be a part of the solution. So yeah, it's a wonderful blessing for me to get to see that all summer. I've been doing these leadership congresses in state capitals across the country over the last few weeks, and get to work with all these young people that are getting the light switch turned on. And if you want to learn more about that, patriotacademy.com. We got one left actually next week, our big national one. So be praying for all these young people that are coming into the campus to experience that. Rick Green and Walker Wildmon together today for At the Core. We're going to take a quick break. Phone number is 888-589-8840 if you want to join us. We'll be right back. You're listening to At the Core.
and have put on the new self who is being renewed to a true knowledge according to the image of the one who created him. My name is Abraham Hamilton III, and this is the Hamilton Minute. In Paul's epistle to the Colossians, he addresses a church comprised of people who had been saved in a pagan, first-century Roman culture. He explains to them the vigorous necessity of putting off the old man and putting on the new man. He then directs them to the ultimate object of their renewal, their sanctification. It is critically important that we believers remember, as we walk with our Lord in the sanctification process and face various challenges, that we are being made more and more like Jesus.
Listen each weekday from 5 to 6 p.m. Central for the Hamilton Corner, or visit the podcast page at afr.net for more from Abraham Hamilton III, Public Policy Analyst for the American Family Association.
Okay, here's an assignment for you, if you will. I want you to take some time and think about a getaway that gives you a chance to get together with other people of faith, deepen your walk with God, and make new friends, all while enjoying the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter in Kentucky. I'm talking about joining AFA at the Ark, October 29th and 30th. This is a great opportunity to break away from the grind of everyday life and draw closer to God through special presentations from Patricia Engler and Brian Osborne of Answers in Genesis. It also includes entrance to the Creation Museum on Thursday and the Ark Encounter on Friday. Friday's dinner includes a panel discussion with Tony Vitagliano, Walker Wildmon, and Wesley Wildmon, Vice Presidents of American Family Association. This is an event that can fill up quickly, so hurry to afa.net/events to register for AFA at the Ark 2026. afa.net/events, and we'll see you at the Ark.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildman, president of American Family Association and American Family Radio. Hey, we've got some great tours lined up for March of 2027. We've got one tour we call the Footsteps of Paul tour. That's mainly in Greece, or only in Greece, including Athens and Corinth and Thessalonica. And then we've got a separate tour to Italy, where we're going to Venice and Florence and Pisa and Rome and all the sites of Italy. So you can do both of these tours if you want to. We've arranged that as well. Also, this tour of Italy, it's not like the Olive Garden tour of Italy, you know. We're really going there to Italy to see Italy and to eat Italian food too as well. So for information on any of the tours I've mentioned here, go to tours.afa.net. Tours.afa.net, tours.afa.net.
This is At the Core on American Family Radio with your host, Rick Green.
Welcome to The Core here on American Family Radio. Glad to have you with us. Walker Wildman, Rick Green, we're here with you live on today's program. We try to get together maybe once every month or two to jointly host the show here on American Family Radio. You can subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Just type in At the Core and click the subscribe or the follow button. And the shows produced by Rick and I will be queued up in your library each and every day. Well, Rick, in the last segment, we did somewhat of a flyover of what the Democrat Party is facing with this insurgency of Democrat Socialists and how they've basically gotten control of the microphone of the Democrat Party. We'll see whether your establishment Democrats, your Schumers and your Pelosi's willingly allow them to continue being the spokespersons, if you will, for the Democrat Party more broadly. But let's talk Republicans. To be fair and square, let's talk what the Republicans are dealing with, what the conservative movement is dealing with from a challenges standpoint. President Trump undoubtedly, well, we know what he campaigned on from an economic standpoint, and that was a pretty attractive message with voters, especially coming out of the Biden era. And President Trump, I would say, has done virtually everything he can within his power as president to get the economy back going again. Unfortunately, inflation hasn't quite dropped like we wish it would have, although it has dropped since Biden left office. So there's a lot going on, and polling says, polling varies on what voters truly care about. I think economy always ranks up at the top.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, what do you think between the Iran conflict and the economy, which the two play on each other somewhat, what do you think voters are going to be thinking about and caring about when they go into the ballot box?
Yeah, no, I would throw into the mix for challenges for Republicans is the insanity that's coming from what was considered part of the right, the Tuckers and Megans and Candace's kind of that has created a lot of disruption in the movement and unity that we needed to have going into the fall. So that one we probably should hit as well. But yeah, the Iran thing is just absolutely needs to happen. Obviously, we need to prevent them from getting a nuclear weapon. Clearly, it's an evil regime. I mean, I think what's happening there needs to happen, no doubt. The only downside is the effect it has on oil prices while it's happening. Eventually, I think the return on investment is going to be incredible. I think if you actually get rid of that Islamic totalitarian regime, you get the straits open, you get when there's no longer this bully over the straits that's constantly threatening and constantly causing problems. I think that there's a huge reduction in the price of oil for the long shot. But for now, it's definitely affected. I will tell you though, man, I'm actually shocked that oil has not gone back up over 100. I know today it's up in West Texas is 84, I think 82, 84. So it's definitely higher. I think Brent's 90 or 89. So it could go. But the fact that we're in full blown war mode at this point.
Yeah.
Right there over the straits, and that it does create all kinds of problems and uncertainty and all of that even in that environment, that it's not that much higher than it was under the Biden administration when there was no war. I think Trump's played it pretty well as he possibly could, but it is going to be a factor. There's just no way around it, and most people don't think about, okay, yes, I'm paying a price right now at the pump and it's hurting me, but this is needed for the world and needed for the United States. It is America first interest. It's not selling out to foreign interest and all that. It is good for us and will be good in the long run. But man, it sure hurts right now. And people don't think like that. They think like it hurts right now, therefore I'm voting against whoever's in charge.
Yeah. The apocalyptic predictions on oil and energy from people before the Iran conflict, before the Iran war, to your point, they would have said, oh, it'll be $200 a barrel or whatever. And it just hasn't gotten there. Now, there's some backstops that have been used with strategic reserves and et cetera that have eased the pressure. And then the fact that our U.S. Navy is escorting energy vessels through the strait on a daily basis is helping as well. And traders know that. But nonetheless, it hasn't been as bad as it could have been. Let me just say that to your point.
Right.
But at the same time, people were talking about, like, is gas going to go below $2 a gallon in certain parts of the country before this? I mean, and I think it went down to like $1.97 a gallon in one part of the country. President Trump posted about it. And so that was like an exciting time. It's like, man, we can go back to a $1.95 gas. This is phenomenal. So, I mean, we're talking about winding the clock back 20 years or so or more. And so when you go from that to this, when I say this, I'm talking $3.50, $4 a gallon gas. There's no way to get excited about that. And to your point, people don't say, oh, well, I'm glad it's not $7. We always go, I wish it were $2. So that's just human nature. It's all part of expectations. And when you've seen better, you want better in the future. So, and you're right, voters are more short-term minded, and the economy is number one on the list. There's a couple things that can happen here, and I think President Trump is trying to achieve it. I've always been in the position, if we take the Strait of Hormuz off the table, as far as Iran having that leverage, that's a game changer. Because if you think about it, Iran has no other leverage. The only leverage they have is the Strait.
Yeah.
And it applies economic pressure across the board globally. So I think President Trump and the Department of War currently are trying to take that off the table through military force. And if that's done, Rick, and the oil begins flowing to pre-war levels, and then you have the Venezuelan oil on the market that's no longer sanctioned, that's a very big deal, and you could get back down to $50 and $60 barrels of oil.
Can you imagine?
And so I think that's what President Trump and his team see on the other side of this, but when is the other side, and can the American people wait? I'll just tell you this. Look, President Trump has and this isn't this isn't even, well, this is anecdotal, but it's not scientific, and it has holes in it, I admit. But President Trump and his, number one, he's got the best cabinet, 10 times better than the first term.
No doubt. No doubt.
Cabinet, administration officials, White House staff, et cetera. But secondly, he has a track record of fixing things. And I think this is one of the hardest things he's faced as president since he's been president, first term and second term. This Iran thing is the hardest thing because it's not traditional negotiating. It's not two rational parties.
No, you're dealing with crazies.
Yeah, you're dealing with crazies. And so he is not, and this isn't his fault, he's not used to that. He's been in the business world his whole life. He deals with rational actors. And so this is taking him longer to fix.
Yeah.
But I think when we get to the other side, we'll all be sighing a breath of relief and we'll all be better off along with our allies in the region. But we've just got to get there. And I don't know how long it's going to take or whether the American people have the patience to wait it out and allow President Trump and the Republicans to remain in power.
That is the question, right? Can you get people to understand and be patient and will all the other factors cancel it out? You know, if the crazy Democrat, socialist thing hopefully has enough depresses enough of their vote. I mean, when Bill Maher is going on television and saying that his vote is up for grabs, that he will not live in communism, and that was pretty shocking. And then even Fetterman. I don't know if you saw that interview with Senator Fetterman from Pennsylvania, but he was talking about how crazy their party has gotten and how important it is to pull away from that. So that factor could help cancel it out. If they can hold on, if the Republicans can keep the majority and not sell out the president and weaken his position, which was happening over the last few months, with what Congress was doing, to make it harder for him to negotiate. But like you said, he's negotiating with crazies anyway. But if they hold on for the midterms, I think what you just described in terms of the long-term benefit and what could happen with the straits, I think that's within our grasp. I think that could happen, and even from a biblical perspective, I mean, Persia could be once again a blessing to the world instead of being a curse. I mean, they're the funder of terrorism around the world right now. Could you imagine the change that would create in just the entire dynamics of the world?
Yeah, and I think President Trump will get there, Lord willing. If he's continue to given the opportunity, but I want to cast a little shade on you mentioned Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Alex Jones, that Nick Fuentes, that crowd of naysayers and doubters, and now they're completely anti-Trump. Tucker Carlson says, "I don't want anything to do with the Republican Party anymore," but the problem with their approach, and there's many problems with some of their viewpoints and positions, but the problem fundamentally with their approach is it's a persistently negative approach.
Yeah.
It's a very pessimistic approach with no problem solving. So like if you listen to Tucker Carlson's podcast, it's 2 hours of ranting and raving about what's all wrong with the country and the world. And, but there's no like leadership proposals on here's how we should fix it. And so it's a very much like it's almost like the victimhood mentality of the left. It's this perpetual victimhood, woe is us, we've been done wrong, and so we're going to get our pitchforks and make things right, even though they won't explain what make things right means. President Trump is handling this really, you could say he should have never gotten in on this to begin with. I'm talking Iran. We're back on Iran.
Yeah.
But if the intelligence and the assessments that he and Rubio and virtually the entire national security apparatus has told us is true about how far along Iran was on nuclear warheads, if that
didn't really have a choice at that point.
Yeah, if that is true, and nobody has a reason to doubt it, and nobody has said it's not true, according to information, then what else is President Trump supposed to do?
Yeah.
More sanctions? We were sanctioning them to no end, to no avail. And so I think given the circumstances, President Trump is doing what he has to do, what no other leader had the backbone to do, and it's just taking longer than the American people would like to fix it.
Yeah.
But all in all, he has handled this very well given the circumstances, and I think the history books will judge him accordingly.
Yeah, and I think the market is judging him right now in a good way is what I'm saying. Like I think the fact that oil hasn't gone to $200 a barrel.
Yeah.
The market is saying in a way, we trust the guy in the room. Like we think he is playing 5D chess here, 4D chess, whatever you want to call it, and that he is handling this as good as can possibly be handled. And I know we all have we have a little bit of PTSD over the whole, weapons of mass destruction and what's actually there and are the intelligence sources solid and blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, man, if you are the guy in the room and you're being told they're this close, and if they get to this point, then it's the North Korea problem, right? Once they they use the conventional weapons long enough to where they hold you at bay, to where they actually get the nuclear weapon, and then nobody's willing to go in and stop them because once they have it. So, I mean, if you're faced with that decision and you're like, if they're telling you we can stop them right now, and if we do stop them, and these aren't just people that are trying to get a nuclear weapon just so they can be big dogs on the stage like North Korea, these are people that have said for 47 years, we want to destroy America. We want to destroy Israel. I mean, they're not even sugarcoating what their end game would be. So I can't imagine being in that position and not choosing to stop that capability.
Yeah, and this is where, to your point about trusting President Trump and his team, in order to follow this narrative out there that, Israel pushed the U.S. into this, Iran doesn't want a nuclear weapon. I mean, all of this basically Iran propaganda.
Right.
In order to follow that and stay on that train, you have to come to the conclusion that the entire Trump team, the entire Trump national security apparatus, which is one of the most loyal, well-versed, competent teams put together in a long, long time in the Department of War, et cetera, you would have to then draw the conclusion that they're all liars, whether it's Rubio, Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, President Trump, the whole team that is, if they're not MAGA, I don't know who is. You would have to be concluding that they're all liars, cheats, and frauds, and they're all bought and paid for by the Israeli government. That's the narrative you're getting out there, but that doesn't even pass the smell test, Rick.
It's impossible to believe. And speaking of Rubio, I know we're about to go to break, but I just got to say, man, these speeches he's been giving,
so good,
and interviews,
man,
I'm just like, wow, he has stepped up big time, and the depth that is there, he's really impressed me. I was never like anti-Rubio, but I was a Cruz guy in 2016, and anyway, just I never, not that I didn't notice, but I guess I'd never been enamored for sure, but man, I am now. I'm just going, wow, this guy is.
He's rising. I mean, he's rising to the occasion, and I like Vance. I'm not trying to throw Vance under the bus or cast Vance shade on Vance, because I think he's still learning a lot of this. But Vance has to be careful to not, kowtow to the Tucker Carlson narrative of like,
concern.
Israel bad, and all of America's problems is on Israel. That's not true, and that's very unwise. And that's what currently differentiates he and Rubio. Is Rubio understands who the true enemy is, and that's Islam.
Yeah, and that's and think about what these kids right now. Going back to what we started with today, I'm telling you, you've got, I think polling's 25 or 40%. I can't remember the number. They actually agree with the statement that Israel's more of a threat than Islam.
Wow,
isn't that insane?
That is.
That's the Tucker world, right? And if he has Vance's ear, that's poison. So I think that is the concern. I think Trump's being wise and letting them kind of play this out, and kind of see who does rise to the occasion. Ultimately, it's going to be whoever he picks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if Trump gets behind Rubio, he'll be the nominee. If he gets behind
Exactly.
Vance, he'll be the nominee. I can't see him get behind DeSantis, but I love DeSantis. I think he's definitely. I hope he puts him on the Supreme Court. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, all of this is we're living in history, obviously, and being able to see the America's 250th and a lot of monumental things happening that will go down in the history books, and we're getting to live through that. And, this election and 28 are an opportunity to continue this positive momentum that has been building with the conservative movement, whether it's the Supreme Court, lower taxes, state level, state rights momentum. All of that is really on the ballot in the midterms and in 2028. So we'll see if the momentum can continue. Walker Wildmon, Rick Green. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Take your calls.
The mission of American Family Association is to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of American culture and give aid to the church here and abroad in its task of fulfilling the Great Commission. Further, AFA believes this ministry, as well as everything in the heavens and on the earth, belongs to God, and AFA's role is that of a trusted manager.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildmon and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
We're in the financial business. We manage a couple of trusts and some estates and, of course, our own monies, too.
Courtney Trotter talks about the charitable gift annuity from the AFA Foundation.
I understand annuities about as much as anyone, I guess, can. So I just felt the charitable gift annuity was a win-win situation for many people that still are generating income and still have assets, because you never know when you may have to draw down on something like that. And if you don't ever have to, then it's even a better gift to get to a really good foundation like AFA, a very solid investment, a good way to help do the Lord's work, and it's there to help us as well.
Find out if the charitable gift annuity can work for you by calling the AFA Foundation at 800-326-4543, extension 345.
This is John MacArthur with more Portraits of Grace. Everybody needs encouragement in the midst of life's difficult ups and downs, and reassuring words are even more vital when we try to deal with trials in a godly manner. Trials can easily tempt us to be discouraged and doubt God's love. And that likely was happening to believers in Peter's time. The Emperor Nero coated many, including children, in pitch and used them as human torches. With such cruel persecution going on, Peter reassured believers of God's love, even as he told them the trials they were enduring were all within God's plan. Oh, I want to reassure you, just as Peter did the readers of his epistle, that troubles and trials come for a purpose. They're a part of life, and even though they might catch you off guard and be painful, God has a purpose, and his purpose fulfills his love. Be a portrait of grace by responding properly, even to the hardest things.
This is At the Core on American Family Radio with your host, Rick Green.
Welcome back to At the Core with Walker Wildman and Rick Green, and we are both with you today. So thanks for joining us on this Tuesday. Normally Walker's got you Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I get you Tuesdays and Thursdays, but today you get both of us. Phone numbers 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. And Walker, we've been kind of wargaming out, I guess, the midterms, talking about pros and cons for the Democrats and for the Republicans. It is definitely close. I see some light at the end of the tunnel, and I just wanted to reiterate something David Barton told me the other day. If Republicans work hard, if they get out the vote, if everybody listening right now, finds 10 friends that were thinking about voting but weren't sure, and you just make sure they go vote, and you just hammer them until they get there. I mean, if we do the hard work that it takes to win, not just the high-level Hail Mary pass of just TV commercials, but we're actually blocking and tackling, man. We're out there knocking on doors, turning out the vote, doing all the hard work. If we do all of that, I'm optimistic. I think there's a chance not only that we hold on, but maybe even pick up a couple of seats. I mean, there's even some U.S. Senate races in play that weren't. So as we go into the final segment here, I just want to lead with that, just say, and we'll jump to the phone calls in just a second. But, I mean, what do you think? Kind of what's your gut right now as far as if you had to be the person placing the bet?
I think with the redistricting, we thought it was going to be better. We thought we were going to get more states to redistrict, more conservative states, but they didn't. But even with what we were able to get, the Republicans and the conservatives, it's better than what it was. Of course, Democrats did their own redistricting. So I think that has dampened the momentum of the Democrat Party. So we're really only looking at 25 to 30, quote, battleground seats in the House. Out of all 435, you're only looking at roughly 25 to 30 that are truly up for grabs. And even of that, some of them may not even be that close. But nonetheless, here's why I'm rather optimistic on the conservative momentum that it can be maintained and the Republicans can keep the House and the Senate, is because what's the alternative? I mean, the alternative is a impeachment trial, arguing over the government funding and shutting down the government. Democrats are going to want to fund abortion. They're going to want to do transgender treatments. I mean, the list goes on. They're going to want to defund Israel. All of this stuff is going to be argued and debated and exhausting everybody's energy over the next 2 years, and then they're going to impeach President Trump and impeach his cabinet. And it's just going to be a big waste of 24 months of our history, of our country's life. So I think if voters look at it like that, and the fact that, yes, there are things that the Republicans haven't done that we wish they would have, and I wish they would do today, such as reduce spending, get rid of some of the agencies. There's some I wish they would get rid of this dumb filibuster so they could actually pass important legislation.
Yeah.
And so I agree with all of those grievances, and they're all valid. But the question I have is, what's the alternative? And if you're just going to check out and go to the House, well, number one, it's not biblical, but it's definitely poor stewardship from a civic standpoint. And conservatives have gained a lot of seats amongst even the Republican caucus. I mean, you look at the Senate, for example, it used to be like Ted Cruz and Rand Paul. Or I know Rubio and some of them came in around the same time after the Tea Party. But basically my point is that the number of, quote, conservatives and really true conservatives in the Senate used to be like on one hand. You could count them like, 3 or 4 Republican senators that were strong and everybody else was weak and rhinos. That's not the case now. You've got like 15 to 20 at minimum of solid Republican senators that coalesce together pretty strongly. So and we've got the Supreme Court, basically a 6-3
most of the time
on a good day,
yeah.
5-4 on a bad day. And then 3-6 on a really bad day,
on an ugly day.
Yeah, but my point is, it's better than it was.
No doubt.
It's like
no doubt.
50-year. It's over the 50-year period. It's the best it's been. So we can't lose sight of that progress that we've made as a movement, and give it back over, to the leftists. So that's my analysis.
It's so easy to be defeatist, right? And you have these black pillars out there that are just trying to black pill everybody, and it's all bad, it's just that's why I love the AFA and why AFR is so important, because people need to hear a biblical perspective all day long, because a biblical perspective is not negative, and you always have hope, and we're 1 Peter 3:15, we're ready to give an answer for the hope that is within. So, let's encourage everybody. Get very involved. Right now, if you want to join our conversation, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Let's jump in with, Colleen in Texas was first up. Colleen, what's your comment or question today?
Hi. Hello, everyone. Yes, my comment is, I'm listening to your conversations, but my comment point is watch out for watch out for still waters. Watch out for the quiet ones. Empty wagons makes the most noise. Now, Iran was making a lot of noise about what they was going to do with their nuclear bomb to America and to Israel and everything. A lot of loud noise. Don't worry about the loud noise ones. Just like with gangs. Gangs is in gangs because they cowards. That's why they're in gangs. They got to work together to be brave. But anyhow, watch out for the Stillwater ones. And them Stillwater ones, y'all, maybe Trump and you all not talking about. Because let me tell you, my uncle was in the Korean War. Watch out for Korea.
Yeah.
Look at that nuclear bomb. Why Trump is not talking about, y'all not talking about Korea? Why y'all not talking about China? Those are the two quiet ones.
Well, we do. We just didn't talk about them today, but you're right. We do. No, it's a great point, Colleen. I mean, there's definitely there's something to be said for the ones that are just kind of almost like a snake in the grass, right? Lying in wait.
That's true.
The thing about Iran is they're both like they're loud and they say all these crazy things.
And they're sneaky.
And they're funding all this terrorism all over the place, and the crazy thing is the amount of money that they funnel to Hezbollah and all these other groups, I mean, they could be a rich, wealthy nation that is really enjoying the best things in life, and that's why the Iranian people would be so much better off to get rid of this regime.
Yeah, to her point, there's a lot of, quote, quiet parts of the world that could break out at any moment and totally change the dynamic. I will say that the reason Iran seems to be talked about the most from my vantage point is because it does implicate your Chinas and your Russias.
Yeah.
Because
they're part. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they're all part of the the globalist or the cabal of communism and socialism and tyranny that are trying to counter the West and America. So, if, for example, if Iran falls to the West and U.S. influence in a positive way, that's a major blow to China, a major blow to Russia as well, and puts us really. People don't think about this geographically, but Iran's rocks throw relative to the world from China, so it inches us closer. Now, we've been in Afghanistan before, but and then the energy at play here with Iran that is imported into China. So to the caller's point, a lot of this is connected, and there was talk about is Russia going to move? I mean, is China going to move on Taiwan? What would that cause? I don't think they're going to do that with someone like Trump in office because they know he doesn't play games. I thought they were going to do it under Biden because he would have been asleep at the wheel. But yeah, I mean, and then there's talk about Russia and the war falling apart because Russia's running out of bodies and ammunition. So all of this could something could happen between now and the election that changes the dynamic of this conversation.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's go to Susan in Virginia. Susan, you're up next. What's your comment or question?
I actually have 3 questions. I'll be really quick, though. How do we get people who are supposed, even if they're maybe moderates, to get informed when 4 of our major news agencies didn't even air the president's speech, and they're being fed lies? I've had
almost like an embargo on getting the truth out because they're blocking, even from the White House. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I can tell them about, you should listen to this station. I listen to RAV and Newsmax, and I have it on my TV. Sometimes that's the other thing. Sometimes people can't get it. The other thing is, President Trump has always said, okay, we've gotten rid of their Army. We've gotten rid of their Navy. They have no Air Force. How are they managing to get the ammunition? My own thought was, okay, somebody's funding them. Is it China? Because they used to be giving them lots of oil. I have no idea. But the other thing that bothers me, most people don't do this. I'm kind of weird, but I listen to the oil per gallon prices, the barrels of oil. And when this all started back in February, like when it was $80, and our prices weren't that high. It went up, yes, to 100, but then it came down, and when it was 80 again, there was a couple of weeks, the gas prices didn't come down, and I really feel like we're going to lose people because the other side's just going to say, it's the war's price, and this didn't have to happen.
Yeah,
so,
it's definitely a risk, and definitely a risk that's their perception of why, right? We didn't need to go there, and that's one reason the stuff from Tucker and others has been so damaging, is planting that seed. But yeah, to your point, I mean, it didn't go up that much, but it went up enough, and then came back down to not all the way below where it was that it can be an issue. You want to get in your other question real quick? We got about 2 minutes or 3 minutes.
Well, do you have suggestions? How do we talk to people about? How do we?
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go straight to answers then. Yeah. So Walker, what do you think? What's the best way to get people to have a better diet of information?
Yeah,
in other words, have a good source.
Yeah, the top 2 really forms of delivery now for impacting people's news and information is obviously word of mouth, friends, family. That's very important to how people think about the issues. And I hate to say it, but and I'll end with listen to American Family Radio, download our app. But social media is, I think, 60%. The latest study we have is 60% of people get their news and information from social media. That's not what I recommend or what I like. I'm just telling you that's where people get it. So if you're on social media, be active. Share your opinions. Share news articles from Rick and I, American Family News, and make sure that you're getting the truth out there, at least within the areas of influence that you have. And then, of course, American Family Radio can be accessed 24/7, 365 all around the world through the AFR app and afr.net.
And people will listen. What's that verse about? You have a voice, your friends listen, so speak. And I think most people don't know where to go. They almost kind of sense that the credibility of the mainstream media is gone, even if they're not in kind of right-wing circles and haven't been hearing or even listening to Trump call them fake news or whatever. But they do sense that there's a lack of credibility there. They're not buying it anymore, but they don't know where to go. So yes, definitely tell them about AFR, get them to listen, send them links to programs that you enjoy. When you hear something good, that's one great thing about the technology. It's so easy to grab that link and share it on your social media pages. That might cause people to become exposed to either this program or others on AFR or other programming that you support and listen to. That's how these things grow. I've been encouraged to see some of the more rational people, like Jeremy Boring's a friend of mine. He's the guy that started Daily Wire, and he has been one of the most rational voices on Israel, on Candace, on all of that stuff. And he started a new show a couple of months ago, and I got a chance to go on for July 4th with Eric Metaxas, but I've been watching his numbers on YouTube and X and some of the social media, and it's just exploding. And so that's a good sign that it's not just the crazies that are growing, because people like to watch the car crash. I think Candace grows right now because it is so insane. She's saying that such crazy stuff, and so people are watching it. But I think there's a whole other crowd out there that's looking for good rational news. So At the Core is a great place to get it too, huh?
Absolutely. And Rick, on the question of how is Iran still posing a threat that she had, I'm not an expert on this, but here's my understanding. Number one, Iran's been preparing for this for 40 plus years. They've been waiting for this moment to, quote, go after the great Satan they call America. And so they have stacked the Strait of Hormuz with missiles and drones and sea mines. And they've been doing this for decades. And so we're having to pick that apart day by day, night by night. And so that's taking time. Now, Will Iran always pose a threat in the Strait? I don't think so. I think at some point we're going to literally have decapitated them on every level, on every front. But that's just taking time. Iran has so many missiles and drones along that strait. It's very tough terrain. It would be very challenging to drop boots on the ground there, although that's not off the table. But that's why this is lingering as long as it is because all it takes is one missile or one drone to hit a container vessel. And then all of the insurance carriers and everybody just pauses and says, well, we're not going through the strait.
Yeah.
And then you start the whole process over again. So that's why this is lingering as long as it is, even though to President Trump's point, that Iran has no more ability beyond the strait to project power. They have no Air Force. They have no Navy. So we're picking apart the last things that they do have.
And it's just such a huge country, too.
Yeah.
And like you said, they've had so much time to prepare, and that's why so much of this is buried in mountains. And, so it is a challenge. I mean, we do have, I think it's amazing, the lethality of our military, the precision they have, and the fact that we have had so little loss of life. I don't mean to demean that, but the fact that I think we've had 17 at this point, and thank God for that it's so small and that he's protecting our people. But that's part of why we don't want to do the boots on the ground thing.
Yep.
Man, so much more we could share on that. Walker, enjoyed it, brother. Thanks for doing the show with me today.
Absolutely.
And, Walker will be with you again tomorrow on Wednesday. I'll be back with you on Thursday, and then I'll have you on Friday. Be sure and tune in and share. To her point, share the program. Give people a good diet of information. You've been listening to At the Core.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast